Alright, so like any radio system, you're going to start from the antenna and go from there. So with ham radio, everything's kind of a la carte, and you have to kind of figure out what you want. So this is a BMW. It's a BMW E46. This is the car that I take to work every day. That's actually kind of funny, right? One of my friends started that business. Pretty cool. So this is a Diamond. Diamond is a very common ham radio antenna brand. And why isn't it focusing? And basically this is called a lip mount, and I'll show you the underside of it and how durable this is. But you can change the angle this way, and then it tilts, and so it really, you can set it up a number of ways. You can hook it onto a door, like I could put it on that door. But in this case, I have it on just the rear deck lid here. So I chose the Comet SBB5. It's about 30 inches tall. It's not super tall. And this is an NMO mount. I'll show you what that means. So NMO mounts, these are sealed to the elements, and they're very common, Motorola style. This antenna does fold down, but I don't ever do that. I don't need to. The lip mount connects via 4 set screws right here underneath the lid, and it's very solid. It's very durable. And it has this really cool, the Diamond one has this really cool thin coax. It's very thin. You can run that through little tiny holes in the bodywork. I found this hole right here, and this was a plug that came out, and it was meant to use some sort of cell phone antenna jack, and I found out about it by reading some documentation, and that goes right into the inside of the trunk here. I'm not going to tear this all out for you, but understand that cable goes in, and then it goes underneath that mat, and it crosses over to that side, and then it ends up underneath that seat, and it kind of works its way into the main compartment, the main area. And then I have the battery compartment here. So in BMWs, it makes it really nice and easy because the battery is actually in the trunk for most of them. And so if you're doing any sort of radio setup, like serious radio setup, what you want to do is run those power cables home. You want to run those straight to your battery. Don't run them into any accessory panel. So I have the positive and the negative hooked directly to the battery right on that terminal. And so those also follow that path, and they go right in there. So I have the radio mounted under the passenger seat, and I'll show you that in a second. So now you have your antenna going in, and you have your power cables going under. Pretty straightforward. Alright, so working our way over here, I was able to route, and I'm not going to take the seat out, but you take the seat out, and there's a little bulkhead rubberized grommet there that I just ran both of those cables, all the power cables and the antenna cables, up through and under the seat, really hidden, and it just goes underneath this trim pad. And the BMW has carpet here that's split underneath the seat, which makes it really handy because you can just kind of hide those wires and tuck them in. I can feel it right here. Here's one of them. It's just right there, but you can't even see it. It's tucked into that little groove. That makes it really nice. If I lift this up, what you'll see is the main unit under here. This is where, and I just have it floating here. I still need to build a bracket for it, or at least a piece of wood with some, Velcro or something to grip onto it. But it's all connected. This is the ICOM 2710 that I showed you in the last video. And I also need to hide this cable. This is what does this go to? Oh, this is the mic cable. Yeah, ICOMs are kind of weird like that because their mic cable goes to the main unit instead of the face unit. So you end up with all this excess. But I might actually buy a shorter cable. I don't need all that excess. Here, you can't really see it. I can feel it, but there's an external speaker. You just get a cheap one. They're like 15 bucks. Any of them work. And then here we have our mic. I showed you that cable that kind of came around, and I just kind of wedge it into the console here. It stays nice and tight, and then I have access to it right here. Right there, there's the mic. That tucks down in there, right? And then I have the separation kit, so this wire goes in there, and I can route that. I just left this one out because, I don't know, sometimes I like to take this thing out, but I had one of them routed I made like a dummy panel back here. I took out one of these accessory drawers, or whatever you call it, a little compartment, and I made a little dummy plastic cover right here. And so I can always take this off and unhook it and then just put that back in if I ever sell the car. So, and then I made a bracket with some Velcro aluminum, painted it black. I made a nice bracket that holds this face unit. And this is the radio that I showed you that was in our house. So it's out here now, and I can turn that on again. You can show you that it works. Car's off, so you know it's hooked directly to the battery, so it's always on. Gotta remember to turn that off when you're done. Speakers under there, so it works fine. And this is a dual band. Obviously I showed you how to crossband repeat with it, so it's very effective. I can monitor 2 frequencies at once. Pretty cool. And that takes care of our VHF UHF sort of medium range, short range, medium range radio needs. And it's nice and reassuring to know that I can take this system and communicate with a radio that I have plugged in at the house at pretty much any time with no infrastructure whatsoever. So that is basically the ham radio setup that I have, and I found that it works pretty good. I can also take this radio out and put my Yaesu 8900 in here too. I just have to take this mount off, and it'll plug into all the same stuff. They're all pretty universal with what they plug into, so you know, that makes it nice and versatile. So sometimes I run that radio in here. I've been running this one for the last few months because I like it. So that is where we're at. All right, so guys, that is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. That's the ham radio system that I have in my commuter car. I am still kind of in the middle of putting Mrs. D's ham radio in her in the Sequoia. She's not a ham radio operator, so you know she's not real excited about it. But I have probably almost a little bit better of a setup planned for that vehicle, and mainly because when we commute with that one, when we decide to take that on a road trip. It's a long distance situation, so I like to have you know, some nice gear for that. I'm probably going to be getting a better antenna, a nice tall one for that long road trip, and it just gives you a little bit of peace of mind when you are on those long open roads where there's not a lot of you know, cell phone reception, and you can always find somebody on ham radio. So again, hope this interests you. If you do, please like, share, subscribe. It really helps us make more content. And we are going to be focusing on systems this year. We're going to be focusing on systems of preparedness. And I think radio is one of those systems. You know, you can have your short-term, long-term, medium-term. You can have a cabin built out in the middle of nowhere to bug out to, but if you can't communicate with your family and they can't get a hold of you or you can't get a hold of them, you know, a lot of the stuff is pretty pointless. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. It's a pretty simple setup. I've tried to keep it pretty clean in this car, and you wouldn't expect to have a ham radio in a sports car, but that's the reality of it. This is a great car. I like it, and it gets me to and from work every day fairly economically, so it's my chosen vehicle. And that's basically it. So I will see you guys on the next one. I hope you guys are doing well. I'll talk to you later.
From police right after departure.